Alright, welcome back YouTube. I'm finally back on YouTube filming some content for you guys. Mainly because this is the first stint I'm going to have for a good couple of months of consistent training. If you've been following along, the last few months have been a lot of travel and a lot of content creation and a lot of research for me, doing my muscle mechanics tours internationally. Anyway, what that means for me the last few months has been a lot of inconsistency of training. Now it's an excuse, I know that, and I'm happy to say that. For the last few months, training was not a priority for me, but I was still doing whatever I could to maintain some kind of consistency in terms of movements, in terms of strength, in terms of muscle mass, in terms of leanness, in terms of staying also pain-free. However, I wasn't able to train more than maybe twice a week, but now I'm back home, so I'm gonna start getting the cameras rolling again. So today's workout is centered all around the posterior. I guess if you're a bodybuilder, you could classify this as a back workout or a lats workout. If you're a power lifter or a strength guy, you could call it, or girl, you could call it deadlift day, because we're gonna do some deadlifting as well. If you're somebody who wants to move better, you can look at this as a mobility session. You can look at this as a postural session. Why is this so important to me personally, to give you guys some context, is the major thing that's been screwing me up has been posture. A lot of sitting on planes, a lot of sitting researching, a lot of standing and being sedentary and static in my postures and not moving as much has caused a lot of atrophy and regression in strength in terms of my uprightedness. I'm sure that's a word. Anyway, these kinds of sessions are all about not necessarily just training lats or just training back, but improving posture as a whole. I'm not trying to necessarily target certain muscles. I'm looking at integrating and strengthening all of the foundational structures, like breathing, like bracing, like stability of the pelvis. All of those kinds of things are being integrated in the entire workout. So let's get into it. Prep today, warm-up prep, or whatever it is you want to call it. Starting with the kettlebell bottoms up press and a Bulgarian split squat with the contralateral side loading. So what I'm thinking about here when I'm doing the press, one thing you'll see I'm balanced just on that working side. So most of my weight, I've got right arm working. Most of my weight's on my right leg. That left is just there for a little bit of balance. Really thinking about not just pressing, just trying to keep the scapula packed down. I want elevation. I want to close that gap as much as possible. But as I do that, avoid flaring at the rib cage. You want to keep those ribs down and compressed. That's going to focus a lot more of the work through that serratus and even through the rhomboid mid-back to stabilize that shoulder in that elevated position. So I like the kettlebells specifically for a little bit of the instability. There's a brain region called the cerebellum, and it's responsible for things like coordination and balance. Now, it doesn't specifically contribute to movement per se, like the motor cortex does in the brain, but what it does do is helps to coordinate and balance and stabilize the body. This is a brain region that we do want primed before going into other movements. So it's important, I believe anyway, to start off most of your exercise or your workouts with some kind of unilateral, unbalanced, kind of circus bullshit exercise, more so to challenge that region of the brain, to wake it up, to help prime it for the rest of the actual workout that's to come. You see there with the Bulgarian split squat, I'm loading on the opposite side to that working leg, to again, provide a little bit of lateral instability to improve the firing and the output of that working glute, that working leg. Now the question is, why am I focused so much on lower body like the Bulgarian split squat when it's supposed to be a back day for a bodybuilder? What you got to understand is that muscles don't work in isolation. Everything is connected to one another. You can't completely isolate lats, you can't completely isolate delts, you can't completely isolate glutes or VMO or calves or anything like that. It's all about creating some integral link together with some intelligence. You got something called this contralateral glute to lat sling, where the glutes are inherently tied to the opposing shoulder. So left glute, right shoulder, they do share some kind of link. Loading up these kinds of movements in this way will improve the output of my lats when I go do the more primary work, which we'll get to in a sec. The big thing is, like, doing this kind of work, you're not necessarily gonna get amazingly strong or amazingly big. Like, how much muscle are you gonna put on from doing a one arm bottom of the kettlebell? Not very. Like, you're not gonna put on a lot of strength just doing that, but it's gonna help allow you to build strength and to build muscle in other exercises, like your typical chin-ups, or your pull-downs, your rows, your deadlifts, whatever it is you want to do. It's really all about laying their foundations for the rest of the workout. That's why it's prep. That's why this work here, it's not warming up. If I wanted to warm up, I'll go on a treadmill. If I want to warm up, I'll go sit in the sun. If I want to actually prep for a workout, I need to ask the question, what needs to be prepped? My joints, my nervous system. How do I do that? By waking up tissue. How do I do that? A multitude of ways. I could do isometrics. I could do other exercises in the machine. I prefer specifically to do things that are a little bit more challenging on a balance perspective, on a stability perspective. I found it to be much more effective and lasting than the work that I used to do as pre-workout drills. And it's definitely much better than just coming in cold and just hitting a lighter set of your main movement and working up in weights. Because in that regard, like we're gonna do lat pull downs in a set, if I just go in cold and do a lat pull down, it'll work, it'll feel good, it'll feel okay. But if all I do as my prep is just increment the weight, that's only gonna be one variable to help to wake up the brain or wake up the joints or prep the nervous system, prep the muscles. Whereas this, as a different kind of intervention, helps to prep the body on a multitude of levels in terms of weight, in terms of stability, in terms of balance, in terms of motor unit recruitment. So that's a much, much more holistic way to wake up the body and prep it for training. Getting into the primary work now, out of what I'm about to do, the only exercise that I really care about as my main exercise is the lat pull down. To begin with though, I'm going to start with a push-up on the ground. It's kind of funny. Many years ago at my strength peak, I could bench double body weight on a bench press, but I couldn't get through 10 perfect reps of a push-up. Now you tell me if that's a big discrepancy and a red flag in terms of overall strength and mobility. So you shouldn't need, hopefully, too much queuing on push-ups, but here are my main points when I'm thinking about how to do a perfect push-up. I'm thinking about ribs staying down, not flared up. I'm thinking about head staying aligned, chin tucked slightly. I'm thinking about the top, spreading my scapula and pressing and flexing through my serratus and my pec minor, keeping the abs compressed. This entire anterior chain here is compressed slightly downwards, like I'm slightly flexing in. It's called a hollow hold in gymnastics. And that's probably one of the main reasons why push-ups are so much harder than bench pressing. I tell you what, if you ever struggle feeling your lats on like a lat pull down, super simple, hit a couple of sets of push-ups, sub-maximal. See there, I'm only doing sets of like 5 or 6, and it's very easy, controlled, and smooth. Hit a couple of sets between your sets of lat pull downs. If you really want to supercharge it between each set, you can do some kind of overhead hold. Today I'm doing overhead squats, but you could do anything to wake up the upper back more. Try that out, and I guarantee straight away your lat output will just skyrocket. Why have I chosen a supinated grip as opposed to a pronated or a neutral? Again, there's nothing magical about the grip. I'm doing it because I've got the mobility for it. I have the ability to externally rotate. I have the ability to extend my shoulder joints. If people don't have that kind of flexibility, they're going to bash up their shoulder, bash up their neck, bash up their elbows. So, simple solution, if you don't have that, do this, neutral grip. Do that, pronated grip. Even if you just go single grip, single arm grip. Doesn't really matter for all intents and purposes. You can customize this however you want to customize it. But for my anatomy on biomechanics, I get a lot of output from a basic supinated grip lat pull down, primarily because I've got that mobility. And the beauty of it is, how do you get that mobility if you don't have it just yet? Work on it. Do exercises like this where you challenge your rotation, where you challenge your extension mobility of the shoulder joints. If you don't challenge it, if you don't ever push for it, you're never going to end up getting it. So, really simple thing, use it or lose it. And if you've lost it, start trying to use it as long as there's no pain, and you'll regain it. Simple. So,
There's a big difference between fluid strength, i.e. motion, having strength as you pull and go through the fluid motion, and static strength, the support strength, where you're holding an isometric. So they're two distinct types of strength. They're both very, very important. They feed into each other. So isometric strength or static strength, something like this. Putting yourself into that amount of elevation, raising everything up, is a really, really, really good way to isolate and target the upper back musculature. See, the rhomboids and the lower traps, they're not, while part of their role is to like retract or posteriorly articulate or whatever it is, their main role is to provide stability isometrically in this overhead pattern where your scapula is being upwardly rotated and your shoulders are elevated. That is the #1 way to target the upper back and strengthen it. Okay, so deadlifts notoriously have been known for fucking me up mentally because I get way too excited, I want to lift way too much, and it's probably one of the most neurologically demanding exercises out there simply because of the sheer weight you're using and the fact that you are literally using every single muscle group in your body maximally, and I love it. But at the same time, once I love it, I've got to respect the fact that it screws me up mentally if I push too hard. Anyway, cut a long story short, what we're doing today is holding the lockouts for about 5 to 7 seconds on each rep. Keeping it very sub-maximal. I'm trying to do things to challenge my ability to lift maximally to stop me from doing something stupid like overloading. But importantly, this is a good time for me to start to retrain foundational breathing and diaphragmatic control patterns. So the last few months of teaching and traveling, I'm doing a lot of chest breathing, a lot of mouth breathing, simply because when you talk, you can't breathe in through your nose at the same time. Try it out, I'm sure you can't. So the more I teach, the more I travel, the more I do stuff, I promote that chest breathing, I promote that poor diaphragmatic control. This is all about retraining that, using load. Okay, it's one thing to be able to do breathing drills at home without much resistance, but it's a whole different story to train it when you're using actual loads in the gym. That's what this session is all about with my deadlifting. Posturally, again, it's all lats, it's all posterior, but importantly, I'm doing it in a way that emphasizes diaphragmatic control. Because of all the work I've just done, these feel fantastic, and that's intentional. I don't think anybody likes coming into the gym, getting into an exercise, whether it's squats or it's bench press or deadlift or anything you want to do in the gym, and having it just not feeling good. Then you got to spend half an hour mobilizing, activating, stretching or whatever, and then at best it still feels like shit. So instead of going through that frustration, what I found doing over time is only commencing the exercise when everything in my body is primed to actually make sure it feels good. I don't want to spend any dead time doing an exercise where it's not feeling optimal. If it's not, that's a sign to me that I've thrown it in too early, that I've thrown it in before my body was ready to be able to handle it. One more thing to pay attention to here as I do each rep is this big nasal inhalation. You'll see that I'm specifically taking a really slow draw through my nasal passageways as opposed to breathing through the mouth. Simply because I want to make sure I'm retraining that pattern of nasal flow into my diaphragm to create that circumferential brace around my midsection. It's very easy for me now, given the past couple of months, to breathe into here and to create too much laxity and not enough support strength through my midsection and decrease output through the rest of my body. So another thing you can do to help with this whole repatterning of the breath and the diaphragm control is chuck on a strip. These things instantly decreases that nasal resistance, which helps to improve airflow through nasal passageways. This is definitely not necessary for everybody, but I do find it very, very useful to retrain the diaphragmatic control, and a lot of people don't have it. It's also a very quick way, the same way you would use a weight belt, the same way that you would use straps or screws or whatever. This is a nose belt, whatever you want to call it. It's helped to improve automatically diaphragmatic control. straight away. So I can breathe more efficiently, brace more efficiently, and get better output and a faster result on my deadlift. So just sticking with, again, sub-maximal sets. Just doing sets of 2 here, I'm doing multiple sets, because this is all about ingraining the right pattern. I don't want to push this anywhere near exhaustion, because I'm not doing it from a muscular standpoint, I'm barely doing it from a strength standpoint. I'm also doing it from a diaphragmatic control and breathing standpoint. I want to make sure at all times I'm mastering the correct motor pattern of diaphragm control and brace, because that's something that I've been struggling with due to all the extra travel and stress and just not paying attention to it as much recently. So if I was to do 5 or 6 reps, I probably could, but that would probably be too much on the continuum of less control for my midsection and more dominance up here, which I want to get as far away from as possible. So I'd rather do many more sets, or even just cut it short and make sure I leave the gym feeling better than when I came in. Alright, so that's today's workout, and if you look at it on paper, it's actually pretty condensed and not a whole bunch of work was done. If you look at it, there was 2 sets of lat pull down, and if you were to count the deadlifts, you could call that working sets as well. But overall, everything else, so the core press, the split squats, the push-ups, even you could say the overhead squatting, the holds there, that was all prep work. That was all designed to improve the output on that lat pull down and to improve, ideally, the output of the deadlift. Where by the time I got to the deadlift, things were firing properly, things were awake, and I didn't have to think too consciously about contracting, activating, or squeezing. Things just lit up the way that they should have, which is the perfect outcome of anything you do in the gym. You shouldn't have to think too deeply about, is my lat activating or not? You should be able to find the right sequence to throw at your body to make and force the lats to contract. You gotta think, if something's not recruiting the way that it should be or the way that you think it should be, that's your brain telling you don't go there or don't use that because it senses danger. So you gotta find ways to tell the brain it's okay. You gotta find ways to tell the brain that there's no danger, then it will then unleash that strength for you, which is a really interesting concept to start thinking about. This workout could very, very easily have been scaled up, and you're gonna see it can be scaled up very, very quickly. So you could do simple things like adding in more working sets, adding in more intensity, more load. It could be making some of those prep drills actual working drills, actual exercises. That overhead squat could very easily become an overhead press, or it could very easily become a heavy working-based overhead squat with a longer isometric. All the preliminary prep work, the kettlebell bottoms up, the Bulgarian split squat could very easily become challenging work as well. And of course the push-up could become something more challenging. You could throw more exercises. There's a million ways to scale up or to regress down this type of training, which is what I love so much about it, which is what makes it so malleable to your goals. So give it a shot. Let me know what you guys think. And if you want to see more of these kinds of videos, leave me a comment below and I'll see you guys soon.